Morning, everybody. Today I was studying in Genesis 24, and when I was reading Genesis 24, it's kind of interesting. Abraham sends a servant out, and what I think is funny is there's no name for the servant. It's just the servant, so far that I've read. And what was cool about that is Abraham sends out a servant, and he says, "Go find my son Isaac a wife." And so he says, you can't go to the Canaanites and don't go to basically the Gentiles and find a wife. I want you to go back to my family and find somebody who would be more appropriate for him to marry. And so he goes, his servant goes, he takes some cool stuff with him, some prizes for the bride-to-be. And when he gets to a place where he's called to go, he goes to the well and he waits, and he goes to God and he says, "Father, or Lord, send me someone who will meet this criteria, who will do this thing or say these things, and when they do, I'll know that this person or this girl was sent from you." And the thing about that is, first of all, he's putting his faith in God to direct him. And he asked God for some very specific things to help guide him. And he had faith that God would use those things to give him that direction. And then eventually a girl does come, Rebecca comes, and she goes to get water from the well. And his stipulations were that if the girl that comes to get water from the well, if she gives him something to drink and then also gives drink to his camels, that he would know that she was the one. So when she lowers her jar down to get water into the well, he says, "Can I get a drink?" And she says, "Sure." And she gives him a drink, and she says, "Now let me get a drink for your camels." And so he knew immediately, okay, this is God answering this. In fact, the Bible says that he was praying this in his heart, and before he had even finished praying this, that God had already sent Rebecca to answer it. Here's the thing. So now this guy has had his prayers answered by God and has been directed by God for a specific person. So he goes back to their family, and he retells the story. And he tells about, okay, this woman answered, Rebecca answered those particular criteria that I asked for God to give me for the woman that is supposed to marry my master's son. And what's interesting is he recites the whole story. But another interesting thing is that he stops in the middle of everything and gets on his face and worships God and thanks God for answering the prayer that he had for finding the right wife. Here's what I think is most interesting. We know about this story thousands of years later because he wrote it down. In fact, we don't, as far as I can tell, we're not sure what this guy's name is. But we know of what happened in this incident because he wrote it down, because he took note, and because he retold the story. When I say he wrote it down, I mean it was wrote down years later, obviously. So technically it was probably past. That would be beside the point. The point is, and he made sure that people knew the story. Sorry, I just skipped a bit, but I just wanted you to know that it is important for us, it is very important for us to take note of what God has done and those prayers that he's answered and those things that he's done in our lives, and to make sure that other people know that God has answered those things. And it's no small thing, even if it seems small, when God answers a prayer. That's what God gave me this morning, guys. God bless y'all and love y'all.